The search and capture of John Wilkes Booth, a superb actor, a Confederate extremist, and President Abraham Lincoln's assassin. Booth was raised in the South and always had a hatred towards the North and the Union. Booth resorted to extreme levels to preserve Southern rights and to eliminate abolitionism. He wanted to assassinate the President, the Vice President, and the Secretary of State. For 12 days, the assassin is at large, and he is on the run until he is caught at the Garrett Farm in Virginia. Here is a day-by-day account of John Wilkes Booth's search and capture. Day 1. The assassination. It was April 14, 1865, and Lincoln was to accompany his wife to the Ford Theater to see a British comedy, Our American Cousin. There, Booth easily entered Lincoln's presidential box and shot him in the back of the head during the last act of the play. After the horrendous crime, he jumps onto the stage and breaks his leg. And on stage, he yells to the crowd, "Sic Sempus Tyrannis," which means, "Thus always two tyrants" in Latin. This phrase was supposed to explain his actions and to support the Confederacy. He then proceeded to run out of the theater and escape on horseback. He rides from the theater to the Naval Shipyard Bridge. The guards, who have not heard of the incident, let Booth cross the bridge into Maryland. David Harold, who was one of the conspirators for Secretary of State William Seward's murder, also crosses the Naval Shipyard Bridge into Maryland and meets with Booth 7 miles outside of Washington, D.C. Back in D.C., Secretary of War Edwin Stanton orders that John Wilkes Booth be found immediately. Once in Maryland, Booth and Harold traveled to Surratt's Tavern. There, they were to receive weapons, and there also Booth brags about Lincoln's murder and Secretary of State's William Seward's possible murder. Day 2. The Search. April 15, 1865. Booth is convinced that America will see him as the hero that saved the country from a tyrannous ruler. But that is not the case. Stanton orders thousands of men search for Booth to be captured. Day 3. April 16, 1865. Booth travels from the Surratt Tavern to Dr. Samuel Mudd's house in Charles County, Maryland, for the sole purpose to have his leg taken care of. Dr. Mudd assisted Booth only because he knew Booth, not because he knew of the assassination. Day 5, April 18, 1865. The Zacchaeus Swamp in southern Maryland. There, Booth and Harold meet a man, Thomas Jones, who was to help them cross the Potomac River. Jones brought food and water along with newspapers. This was Booth's first time seeing the public's reaction to his assassination of the president. To his shock, the public was outraged. Even the South was mourning the Union president's death. Day 6, April 19, 1865. Booth and Harold decided to cross the Potomac River at a stretch of river called Dent's Meadow. It was nearly a mile long. Day 7, April 20th, 1865. Thomas Jones aids Harold and Booth and tells them to head southwest across the river to meet with Confederate operatives. There, they cross the river in a mere rowboat with treacherous currents and spring runoff. They thought they were seen by a gunship, and they stopped paddling. This caused Booth and Harold to go back on shore to Maryland, the place where they started. Day 8, April 21st, 1865. Booth and Harold successfully crossed the Potomac River, yet the Confederate sympathizers they wanted to stay with would not accept them into their homes due to their heinous crime. Day 10, April 23rd, 1865. Booth and Harold have entered Virginia and met 3 Confederate soldiers at the Rappahannock River. The soldiers become allies with the couple because they respect their actions, and they inform the couple that there is a farm close by that will be accommodating to them, the Garrett Farm. However, when asked about the murder, Booth becomes surprisingly modest about the assassination because he realizes that it was not a socially acceptable act. Day 11, April 24th, 1865. Richard Garrett was quite hospitable towards the couple, and that is because Booth and Harold did not identify themselves. They only said that they were Confederate soldiers going home from war. The Union soldiers who were on the manhunt to find Booth were following a lead, and it led them past the Garrett farm. But when the soldiers passed by, the couple went and hid in the woods. This action made Richard Garrett suspicious of their real motive for seeking refuge on his farm. The couple was then forced to sleep in the tobacco barn by the suspicious Garretts, and in order to prevent the couple from stealing their horses, they were locked inside the barn. One of the Confederate soldier allies from the Rappahannock River reveals to the New York 16th Cavalry, the Union soldiers who were to find Booth and Harold, that the couple were at the Garrett farm. Day 12. The capture, April 25th, 1865. The New York 16th Cavalry approached the Garrett farm to demand the whereabouts of Booth and Harold. The Garrett's son soon reveals that they are in the tobacco barn. The barn is unlocked, and they demand that the couple surrenders or the barn will be lit on fire. Harold ends up surrendering, but Booth did not. The soldiers end up lighting the barn on fire, and Boston Corbett saw Booth through the planks on the barn raise a pistol towards the door of the barn. Corbett thought Booth was going to shoot his men, and he shot Booth in the neck that paralyzed him from the neck down. It took Booth 3 long hours for him to die, not as a hero, but a wanted assassin. The country was essentially in shock that their beloved president, who had just won the war, was assassinated by a coward. Booth was a coward for killing a defenseless man who he misunderstood. The reason why Booth wanted to kill Lincoln was because he thought Lincoln was power hungry, when in fact all Lincoln wanted was peace and preservation of the Union. The whole country was upset with Booth, including the South. The fact that even the South mourned the loss of Lincoln tells you that Booth's actions was childish and not heroic, as he essentially thought. When Booth died, his death was celebrated. It is ironic how Booth's death was celebrated and not Lincoln's, as Booth intended. Thus, America did not go to the tyrant.